I will call the meeting to order at 9:02. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Hey, Mark, I don't know if this would be an addition or not, but just want to make sure we talk about how to formally award the bid today and what the process is for that, so everybody knows. And then if there's any stuff anything we need to do on our end to communicate with Reed, to, get the process rolling, because we know it's going to take 5 months for them to build our bus.
I'm going to be going over the spec sheet with Reed's anyhow, but as soon as we get that formally awarded,
We'll put that in as 7.5. Dwight, did you want to?
Yeah, I wondered how much. I didn't see the agenda, to be honest.
I don't have the agenda either. I sent an email this morning, actually. You said something about there were meeting documents, and I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
Did other people not get it? Did anybody get it?
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
I think I got it, Mark. Dave got it.
So if you go to meetingdocs.rvusd.org,
Oh yeah.
.net, in the transportation folder is a meeting, so you can get all the documents in there.
That's a new process for me. I apologize.
That's okay.
Yes.
I had sent it all out, but I've had plenty of emails going to spam from different accounts these days. So, but Dwight, you had a topic off the agenda.
Yes, I'm assuming it's not on the agenda. I want to just talk about possibility of looking into an electric bus for the river valleys.
Okay, so we'll put that in as 7.7. Anything else for the agenda? And don't ask me why I chose those numbers. Random. Okay, any correspondence? Nope, I'm sorry. I left that off the agenda, actually. No, there it is. I'm so freaking tired. Is there any public comments? There are no public here. So we have 2 minutes to review and approve. Has anybody actually read them? Okay, so they did go out. That part's good. And anybody have a motion for one or both of them?
I did have something. The first one I read was fine. The second one from this last meeting, I did just want to make a clarification to number 7, letter F, with regard to Tammy's driveway. There's not necessarily a safety concern, and I just want to make that clear. I thought that was important. It is just more of a congestion matter, but I don't want to make it sound like there was a safety issue there.
I will make that correction.
Thanks. And aside from that, I can motion if you'd like to approve both sets of minutes.
Second?
I don't think I can second because I wasn't at the November 2019.
You can legally.
Then I'll
Was
second.
any okay?
As long as she's legally okay.
Yeah. All right. So thank you, Allison. Thank you, Shannon. Any discussion? So the motion is to approve them with the amendment to the September 6th. Just to clarify what we're voting on. Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, unanimous. Move on to correspondence. Are there any? Matt, Tammy? No? Okay. Wardsboro bus update. I will turn it over to Todd or Tammy or both of you.
Doesn't matter.
Todd, are you there?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can just update that Todd was able to take our current bus driver, Dennis, up to the requested location and has some thoughts on the stop after doing that. So I will now turn it over to Todd.
Like Tammy said, we did go up and look at. I just don't see any way that's going to work without being really dangerous. Because the only way you're going to be able to back into that road is to pull the bus crossways of the road. And it's right on a sharp corner and a real steep decline. It's bad enough this time, get snow on the road. Somebody coming down that hill is going to go right underneath that bus. And a day like today, it was really bad this morning with fog and not being able to see out the windows of the buses very well this morning. That would be a very bad situation as well. I did have Greg Frost up and look at it. I'm kind of surprised he's not there. But he said that he would not.
Oh, Todd, we lost you.
I'm there now.
Yeah.
Yep. So we got Greg Frost, but not what he said.
He said he would highly recommend not doing that. He feels it's very dangerous as well. That's why I had him go up and look at it just to get another opinion. And Tammy looked at it as well, I guess.
Yeah, and also one of the things that you had noted too, Todd, was just the grade of the hill. Do you want to speak to that a little bit? Just being a bus driver and what you thought about that?
Yeah, it's a pretty steep grade all the way.
11%.
It's 11%, which is pretty steep, and it's winding. And in the wintertime, try to get the bus down over that without having issues with the road slippery is going to be not a very good thing either. I don't think. It's just the whole thing with because of that incline that's there and having to have the bus cross over Route 100, so you're actually blocking off Route 100 to back into that stop is a bad thing. When we were up there, trucks were going down over there. I mean, there was no chance in the winter you're ever going to stop them. I don't feel it's safe at all.
Allison, I put the link to the meeting documents in the chat
Thank you.
for you and for anybody else. So that sounds pretty definitive to me. It's not
Dennis,
safe.
if you want to hear from Dennis, he could tell you, fill you in more probably. He's sitting right here with me.
Oh, sure. That'd be great.
Well, I pretty much agree with what Todd said. There's a turn right on the top of the hill. And while we were up there, I noticed the trucks, mostly 10-wheelers, coming around that. And then suddenly they're on the hill. And Upper Podunk and the other road there are very close after that turn. And you immediately go into the steep grade. And I would say it's dangerous now, but thinking ahead to winter, that was even a bigger concern.
Thank you, Dennis. Does anybody have any questions for Todd or Dennis?
The nice thing about Stratton Arlington Road is it's all level. You got good sight visibility both directions. That stop works really well. But this other one, I just see it working well.
And there's no turnaround because you're just making the circle and going right back out.
Right, so you don't have to back up if you're using Stratton Arlington Road.
Does that not having to turn around and include that private property that may have been willing to let us use it?
I don't think you're still gonna have to back in there. And if there's cars parked there or kids out running around or something like that, it's gonna be pretty dangerous too. That's what's nice about Stratton Arlington Road. I don't know what the name of the road is as soon as you cross the bridge, you go up by the West Wardsboro store and immediately cut it right back around to Stratton Arlington Road, so he doesn't have to back up. And
I think it's
good.
cross
street
or crossroad, I believe.
Yeah, that works good. The other thing of it is it's only, I think it was like a mile and 2/10, so it's not really that far for them to go to Stratton Arlington.
Is there any is there anything we can do about some of that congestion at the Stratton Arlington stop?
Oh, we talked to Amy and she was going to talk to the parents about bringing the cars down the road a little bit farther, a little bit closer to Route 100, so the bus can make that swing without any problems. Otherwise, that should be fine.
Allison, how do you, as a parent, what do you think about that thought? I'd love to hear from you.
I sent a video. I thought it went to Mark. I don't know. It doesn't, it's not overly, if you want to be super, super, you know, I don't see it as too much of a problem, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of kids there, but we can park in your driveway. It's actually better because the vehicles have somewhere to go in that space than they do at the end of the road. Because then we're just on the sides of the road and it kind of gets piled up with snow right there. And at least in your case, we park like 3 to 4 vehicles deep in your driveway. Hope your husband doesn't need to get out.
Okay,
You can wait.
another RVUSD board member, Chad, offered up his driveway as well.
Yeah, his is right there too. If you're asking me, I don't see a reason to move it down to the end of the road other than to make it just one-stop shopping for your bus driver if that's more convenient for them.
Yeah, right now there's 2 stops. There's the one at the sign just before Tammy's driveway, and then there's several people that wait down the end of the road. I believe it's 4 more students that get on down the end of the road.
So I mean, it sounds like we should leave it the way it is based on what, Allison's experience, I think, is what I'm hearing, right, Allison? It seems safer because people actually have a place to park. And then we've got some that are, down the road a piece.
And there's only one vehicle down there because the other family lives there. And,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessary. I did take footage of it. I can send it to you if you need it, but.
No, I think I don't have any problem with Stratton Arlington Road.
Okay.
No.
It's the other one.
So what I'm hearing is that the plan would be to leave it with the status quo,
Right.
not add the additional stop at Podunk, and not necessarily, at least for the time being, move anything that is occurring at Stratton Arlington Road, other than maybe use Chad's driveway as well.
Yep.
Motion for that, or is discussion enough for this? Because there wasn't a motion.
Since we have an actual request from a parent, I think we should have a motion to not add the Podunk stop due to safety concerns. If somebody is willing to make that.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it, Dwight.
Allison or Dwight, any?
I just appreciate the amount of looking into this that everyone did. That's really, really considerate, and we just super appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. Thanks for looking into this. I think it was worthwhile to review it. I did drive up there myself, and I'm familiar with the area. And there's no question that coming down Route 100, it's steep and windy, and it's even pulling a car out of there, making a right or left is a bit harrowing. So pulling a bus out would be even more difficult. So I would certainly agree with the with the observations of the drivers.
Any further discussion? No. All right. Todd, Dennis, and Tammy, thank you all very much for the time and energy that you put into this, and for having our children's safety as a top concern. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I will correspond with the parent just to let that parent know the decision that was made.
Okay, great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that passes unanimously. Thank you again. Tammy, if I remember correctly, that parent was sort of representing a number of parents. So can we just make sure we communicate with either the whole bunch or even all the parents, just to let them know?
I can certainly do that. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we have a request for additional secondary bus routes. Also came from a parent. We talked about this a little bit last time. The bulk of the request is essentially to add busing to BRSU schools, including BBA, Mountain School, and I guess others as well. So we had two things. Todd was going to try to come up with a rough estimate for adding an additional bus if we were able to get him a bus driver. Were you able to come up with something, Todd?
I haven't actually looked into it yet. The girl that does our office stuff has been pretty sick with cancer, so I haven't really bothered her with it yet. But I can, when I get some sort of a figure, I'll get a hold of you.
Okay. I think I will be able to just send that out to everybody as informational once
Yep.
we have that. So thank you, Todd, and hope that your staff members does better, feeling better.
Oh.
And Allison, you had some communication with the BRSU. If you want to share that.
Yeah. So they're cooperative over there. Which is pretty cool to deal with. And it was one of those conversations where they were kind of like, let us know what you need. We'll tell you what we can do. Anything we can make work would be really cool. So essentially they have the one bus. It is not filled to capacity, but I believe in the last meeting we had, you had mentioned there's roughly 40 students in attendance, at least from 9 to 12. That didn't include for Win Hall, MEMS, Maple Street. They do not have 40 spaces currently on their bus. He approximates that they have about 15, which if Dover wanted to do some sort of a lottery system or what have you, he'd be willing to work with that. He can't guarantee any more than that, and they don't have another bus available to simply open up all of it to to all of the students from the BRSU. Right now, everybody, I think you all know, they're paying $800 a student. From families are paying the $800 a student to be able to ride that bus. 5 students currently from our district are taking advantage of that, which would leave an opening of approximately 10 spaces additionally. He doesn't know what like a contract cost would be, because this was going to have to be part of a larger conversation. But he was cool. He was like, if this is something that you guys really want to do, they would discuss a possible potential pickup earlier, because they don't meet at the Stratton Town Hall. They would go as far as the Stratton Town Hall, and that would be like a 6:45 pickup in the morning, and they were willing to consider that, not for this year, but for next year. They do drop off at the Stratton Town office in the evenings, so that's okay already. But in the past, it had been that it would exceed their current driver's 40 hours. It would put their driver into overtime. That is no longer the case. So it wouldn't be additional costs. Again, this is all very preliminary. That wasn't going to be a road barrier, I should say, with regard to getting them over as far as the Stratton Town office in the morning. So there wasn't anything, there was no global solution for the whole problem, but there was some offering out there for parents who, might really need the help, who don't have a carpool or what have you. And that was just about kind of as far as we got. I mean, that would have to be, I think, a much larger conversation, obviously. But that's what they have to offer us currently as an existing, not have to reinvent the wheels system.
Thank you, Allison. Any questions for Allison or thoughts? Dwight.
I just do. Thanks so much, Allison. That's great information. The couple of quick ones. Can you just so that they weren't able to give us a price? Let's say if we were to guarantee 15 spots, were they willing to give us a single price? So maybe we can get that $800 per student cost down.
He said that he would talk to his boss whose name is Greg Harrington, I guess, about coming up with a flat fee for that. But that wasn't like, that wasn't like a phone conversation. But I can certainly, when I do send a follow-up email with him, I can ask about a flat fee for those 15 students.
Yeah, that'd be great. And do you know what the route is for? So let's say they were to pick up in the morning at 6:45 at Stratton Town Hall. Do you know what schools it stops at and at what times, or we don't really quite know that exactly?
So that is available. It is on their website. I did not pull that down, so I don't have it at my fingertips. I know they do end up at the Stratton Welcome Center. I know there is a drop off at Win Hall. Come on.
Mountain School.
Thank you. And they do travel up. They do go to MEMS and to BBA. Those stops. I want to say there may have been a Maple Street on there, but I'm not sure about that. But those, it does go to all those.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, the 6:45 at Stratton Town Hall would be for next year. That's not something that they can add this year, correct?
It was not. He wasn't definitive about it, but he said that would significantly change their existing bus routes right now. He didn't say no, but he said it would be more so on the table for next year. You
Okay.
know?
Thank you so much for getting all that information and sort of starting negotiations.
Right.
Any thoughts or questions?
Anybody else? Go ahead. Let's see.
Go for it.
I do have a thought, and it's sort of like, I just because of my experience in Stratton, and I am not in your district, I have nothing to do with your budget, and I truly hope I'm not stepping out of line when I say this here, but I would hugely caution opening up the door to making transportation payments to private schools, because there are a lot of them. And once you open up the door to one, you may potentially be on the hook, which has happened in Stratton. We just don't have as many public schools available to us as maybe you guys do. And I'm not trying to start a public versus private debate, but there's more of a cap on how many public schools there are versus transportation to private schools. Just past BBA, you have Long Trail Red Fox. That's 2 miles past there. You guys have Charlemont Academy. There's a lot of private. There's Vermont, the one over in Saxon's River over there. So I would just, it's not a public versus private. I would just caution you, because once that Pandora's box is opened, it is very, very hard to shut. That's it.
Thank you, Allison. Things are falling in my house. Any other thoughts or questions? Tammy, Matt, do you have any concept on how many families may want to take advantage of this? Here's Greg.
No, Mark, I haven't done any data collection on whether or not our secondary families would take advantage of a Manchester service or not.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat. I know, once kids start driving, the bus is really not very appealing for them once they got their own wheels. So yes, we're looking at 41 students, but I can't imagine that they would all take advantage of that.
Good morning, Greg.
That doesn't include 7th and 8th though, the 41, or it does?
Correct. Yeah, we're probably talking maybe 10 more between the two, right, Matt?
I think that's a reasonable guesstimate. Yeah. But without driving,
If any,
those older kids won't be able to drive.
Yeah.
Sorry.
thanks, Matt.
Too soon, right? Too soon for that joke. Sorry. Yeah.
There in the meeting docs folder, there are two files. One that Matt provided, one that Tammy provided, that show all the secondary students where they go and from each town. So if you wanted to look at those those numbers, they are available there. But
Yeah.
Dwight,
Yeah, I think it's difficult. Obviously, I just have a child who just got his driver's license, so he has no desire to go. He's driving my car too, so even better. But yeah, so really we're looking at, I think for any school, you're looking at 7th through 10th graders, I believe, for the most part. And so I'm wondering if we should maybe do some type of survey just to kind of get a sense of, you know, what are we talking about? Are we, you know, there's only a few kids, or is there a dozen that would take advantage of it? And I think once we have that, and we have a sense of the cost to get a group rate, then we probably can present something, whether or not we want to move forward.
so I'm going to take a slight detour on our agenda just to let Greg know. We did discuss the podunk stop, and a motion was made and have agreed not to put it on. So we're going to just remain with the Arlington Stratton stop based on the safety concerns and your advice, Todd's and Dennis's. So thank you for participating in that, Greg.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that was I drove up there the other day, and that I was just like, this is a no. There is a little I can't think of it, the name of it, right there near it on the right, but it's a private road. That seemed like it would be a potential option, but I just don't know. You know, I assume you'd have to get approval from them, but it's still, I mean, yeah, that hill's shaky.
I think everyone here seems to be comfortable with the Stratton Arlington, so I think we'll stick with that, and not take any safety risks unless somebody else has other thoughts. Going to a private road I can only imagine the liability concerns and additional things, even if they were willing to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go back to the secondary busing. I'm just going to voice a couple of concerns, and then we can decide what route to go on. I am definitely concerned with what Allison brought up, opening this up. It's like opening up Pandora's box. And I sort of feel like even doing a survey might do that. It opens up the illusion to parents, even if we say this is just under consideration, that this is something that may be coming down the road. So that's one concern of mine. And then I do have the public-private concern, as I think everybody or most of you know, paying money to private schools with public funds is a huge concern of mine. And this is something that is not part of tuition or required by law. So I'd have that concern. That said, I'm only one member of this committee. So if somebody wanted to, well, first of all, if we're going to do a survey, I think because of the topic and the controversial may not be the right word, but I'll say controversial nature of this, I think that this is something we probably should ask the board to ask the board whether a survey is something that they would want to go down. I just feel like otherwise we're setting ourselves up for many parents saying, hey, you made us think this was coming, and if we don't, then Allison?
With regard to the survey, it's a good idea, but if you were going to go down that road, I would certainly, just as a parent myself, would hope that there would be more. I don't think it's ripe yet for a survey, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We just don't have, you have enough information to know that there's interest, and enough information to know that you have a sizable, without knowing the exact amount of children who would be using this service, but without knowing that, you know, are we driving? Are they driving? Are we meeting the BRSU? It's too open yet. I personally think to even consider a survey at this time. That's all I want to say.
Any other thoughts? Matt?
Yeah, I mean, just from I agree with you on the can of worms problem. And you know, you never want to survey something that you don't actually want the answers to. But that said, I wouldn't hesitate, because if there's demand, I wouldn't hesitate to do a survey because that's how we get data and we get information that way. We may not always like it, but it helps us to make choices. But I would also want to agree with Mark and say, I think this would be a really good thing for the board to give us some direction on. If they feel like they're getting pressure and it's a high priority for them, maybe we should run a survey and try to collect some information from our families of who would use it, where they would go, how many kids we're talking about, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I agree with you on that, Mark, fully.
Just know that if you start getting pressure on this, this is a huge, massive undertaking and an expensive one.
Yeah,
So for
quite
something
frankly,
that's not owed, you know.
Yeah, I have no idea logistically how we could do it with the resources that we have, even if we had the money, you know, to do it. The people to do it are just not out there.
I think that's where I'm coming from. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up because there's so many parents that come to me that are like, this is a nightmare. I don't know how to I have to keep getting out of work. I don't know how to get my kids off the bus. I don't know how to negotiate any of this. And I think it would be for, you know, I just want to not get people too excited for something that would, you know, is not right in front of us to be able to do.
And then I can imagine one of the first questions we get is, okay, now are you going to bus the kids to the town hall or wherever the first stop is? You know, are we going to then provide transportation from our schools to, or from Stratton Arlington Road to wherever the BRSU bus, you know, picks up? Which could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident to say, at least with the buses we currently have, that probably is not a possibility. Go ahead, Matt.
I mean, this may be like a really crazy idea and you could toss me out of the meeting for it, but I wonder.
Bye, see you later.
I was just wondering if this is something that's really important to parents that are using Manchester schools, which it sounds like it could be very useful. Could they get together and contact Thomas Transportation and see if they could arrange for a private charter for the year and see what that would cost and then split the cost, you know, or Kosmeskis or one of those other large transportation companies who have the resources, who have the equipment, who have the human resources to actually pull it off and see what it would cost and split it up among the families that use it and see how that goes. I don't know, crazy idea maybe, but.
I think it certainly could be something that we put out there. I mean, nothing is stopping them from doing that now, other than their time and energy and the fact that they would like RVUSD to be paying for the transportation. So other than those,
Get the mover to get involved in it.
get them to come further north.
Brilliant. That's a brilliant idea.
No,
Yeah, actually,
Shannon, was it you that commented on that last time about the contract that they can't do it? Was that you that was saying that? Or that could have been in my meeting in Stratton. I'm not sure, but
I think that would have.
Huh?
I was gonna say that probably was in your meeting in Stratton, but yeah, they have contracts with I think your area now, don't
No,
they?
there's something to do with the insurance. They can't do. They could make a bus. They could make a bus route and a
Oh.
stop that would stop potentially in this area, but they couldn't guarantee seats. They wouldn't privately contract. It's the way their insurance works.
It's from
Yeah.
their federal funding.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's from their federal funding. That's why you can't charter like that. It changed a few years ago.
That's right. And that came up when we were looking a few years ago because we inquired with them. I remember now.
Yeah, I used to be able to rent them for like weddings and then it stopped one year. So that's why now there has to be a big survey. And how they added that Stratton stop is that they have to prove ridership, but they can't guarantee numbers or placement. So it's a bummer.
Any other thoughts? Who would like to, one, who would like to move forward? Two, how would you like to move forward? By putting a survey out ourselves or recommending to the board or asking the board whether they would put out a survey?
Yeah, I'd like to recommend we approach the board and see if there's any interest in moving forward with some type of survey just to get more information.
I think something to note too is that I think for some families, it might change where they choose to go for these later years. So I know it's something I'm thinking about. And I think maybe some people choose a secondary school solely based on transportation, and maybe they wouldn't if they had other options for them. So I do think we should try to get a survey together and the board's help and direction on that.
I'm a little leery about the survey just because of what like I said, what we've been through in Stratton before, and sort of, Mark, to piggyback on what you were saying about that public versus private debate, we do have funding that goes, that is local, that is kept within the WCSU, where these funds are being sent over to Leland and Gray or to Marlboro schools that service 7 through 12, and opening up transportation to these schools, these other private academies, is busing funding over to these private schools that are not included. We're already taxing, you know what I mean, our community members on that. I don't know, this gets kind of hairy for me. So I would definitely like to find out what a flat fee for 15 students is over there, and maybe to offer a lottery or something along those lines, so there is some sort of a remedy for some parents. But I would just caution opening it up like this, because I think you're going to hear an uproar.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I don't want to lead people in the wrong direction here. I can't imagine. Well, I don't want to speak for the board, but having 12 people possibly getting on an existing bus that's as far as I would go. Let's put it that way. But I don't. Just to that. So, the survey, we have to be very careful. It's not to lead people to think that we're going to be providing, transportation to anybody who wants to go anywhere. That's not what we're trying to accomplish here. And the survey would have to really be, researched to make sure we convey what we're trying to accomplish here. It's just to provide some relief within a certain scope, that already exists. We're not going out buying a new bus. We're not, creating a new route. We're not hiring a company. It's something that exists that may be available to a limited number of people. And even that, going forward, we may find some information, at least find some information for existing families to purchase on their own. If we can provide a group rate and the board says no, and then we can give that information to the families. Like, if you guys want to contract on your own for a group rate, here's the information.
That's cool.
So I have huge equity concerns on multiple levels. Saying that we are going to provide transportation to an area of Vermont, BRSU, for only an X number of students, and having to run a lottery is an equity concern. I've got a concern about providing transportation, opening up transportation to any private school at all. Now opens us up to the request to every private school. And I don't see how we can say no if we're providing it to any. And then I've got what Shannon just brought up. I've got huge concerns about siphoning more money, more taxpayer money off of the public school system, and providing it to for-profit organizations. I think we put all of our students at a huge disadvantage, short-term, and a growing more huge disadvantage in the long term. The more money we take out of the public school system. So that's where I stand. But if somebody wants to make a motion to proceed, we will proceed. Greg, you just turned your camera on. Did you have something to say?
Just so you guys know, I'm not looking for making that trip over there and back either. I just assume stay right out of it.
Well, you've got to vote too, Todd. You're on the committee.
All right, I don't know. It just seems like it is gonna be a lot of money, and for me to get a driver, and if I have a driver sick, then I gotta fill in, and the price of fuel goes up and down and all around, and I don't know, I don't really want to get into it myself as Westover Transportation, but I can give you a price. It's gonna be right up there, I think.
Are we responsible for making the choice on this, or is this, we are, as a committee, we are making a recommendation to the board to make a vote on the correspondence that you received?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I would tell you in our Stratton policy, I know what the request was. We have it written flat out that we never reimburse parents for travel expenses, because that is an entire ball of wax on its own. So with regard to that specific request, I personally would not recommend for that. And if the board would like to continue, or if the committee would like to continue going ahead, investigating this and seeing what we can come up with, I'm for that, but I would not recommend. My recommendation is your transportation. You guys as a district have done so much. The fact that you have local busing and then busing to Brattleboro, you are already leaps and bounds over where you should have to be, and that's people should be very, very grateful for that. And I think it's amazing that you've already facilitated that. So that's where I stand on this, is that it shouldn't really go any further.
Okay, it's 9:45 and we still have a couple other subjects to go. So to do. So if somebody would like to make a motion, let's do it. Otherwise, this is gonna die in committee like it's in Montpelier.
I'm not so sure I want to make a motion, but I'd still like to continue this a little bit, because we still need some information. If there's a cost, we can get some kind of, if Allison can get a cost for us for a group, and then at least we have some information we can give to those families who are requesting this. Say, listen, it died in committee, but here's some information that may be helpful to you if you want to move forward with it.
All right, so if we're going to go down that route, then I would suggest that we get, if Allison, if you can get, I mean, obviously you're not negotiating a contract for us, but if you can get a general price from them, and Todd, if you can put together a price for us so that we have that information to give to the board as well, that would be great.
Yeah, can somebody send me what the route would be, where it starts and ends, so I can figure out mileage?
Dwight, Allison, could you put?
Yeah, I mean, it's right on there. It's right on the BRSU website, the bus routes. But yeah, I'll email that to you. Todd, I don't have your email. I'll email it over to Mark.
All right.
I'll forward that to you, Todd. Thank
Thanks.
you. All right, so we're going to proceed with getting those two prices, and we'll send the pricing out to the committee. I'll just remind people, which you probably already know, open meeting laws, we can't have discussion over email, but we'll send the information out and decide then whether we want to meet again and present something to the board. Does that sound good to everybody?
Sounds good.
Okay, excellent. So 7.5, Matt. So I first owe Matt an apology because he sent me an email asking me what we do about the approval. So first of all, the board did vote to approve the bus bid that we recommended to them, the 106,000 and change for Reed Transportation. So that has been approved by the whole board. Greg, you probably know better than I do, definitely, what the process is. Once the board approved that bid, who does it go to? Who has to do what?
Once it's approved, I believe it would come back here to Lori Garland. Lori Garland would sign it, and we would send it off with them, and we would get contract language. We would just nail down final contract language of like what the delivery date will be, and then do they need all the money up front? Are we waiting until the bus gets in to that kind of stuff? But I mean, once the board approves that purchase, we're gonna sign that one of the quotes that were provided, and we'll create a PO and send that back to them.
Okay, does anybody send a note to the losing bidder?
Yeah, I would reach out to the other bidders and let them know where it went. Yep.
Okay, so basically we just need to make sure that
Cressy.
Rich, probably Rich communicates with you or with Lori.
No problem.
Is that it? Does that answer your question? Oh, Todd?
I gotta head out of here, so leave.
All right, Todd, thank you so much.
All right.
Really appreciate all your help.
Thanks.
Todd.
Bye. Matt? Is
Nope.
that good? I'll reach out to Rich.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I figured there was a process for award the bid, so that the company knows that it's been voted on and approved, that they can go forward and make the order for whatever they have to make. We have payment terms, like Greg said, that are set up with the business office, and that's pretty much it. And Dave had something he wanted to add, too.
I will go over the specs of the bus with Scott Reed up there also before we do anything, just to make sure everything is what we want. So a little more
Great,
home.
thank you. And when you do get when you speak to him, if you do get some trade-in rough, even if it's just a rough trade-in value, you can just let Matt know.
When I approached him about that before, he said at the time when if we award the contract or whatever, then we'll talk about that. So definitely it's going to come up, what we can get for the old bus.
Perfect. The board did briefly discuss that on whenever we met, Monday, I think. And I think that the general consensus was that you look at that number and then possibly just put the bus out for a public bid auction, I guess bid.
Camper.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what Chad suggested.
Exactly.
So, all right, so we're good with that. I will reach out to Rich and just make sure that that information is made to central office. Dwight, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about possibility of a electric vehicle.
Thanks, Mark. So just so you guys know, the 100. So the new bus is pretty much exhausts our entire budget for transportation costs currently in our capital transportation, which is pretty much what it was intended to do. So that's fine. But since we have another bus that's only 2 years younger, we're probably going to be in the same situation in 2 years and having to purchase another bus. So I thought it might be a good opportunity to explore the possibility of an electric bus, which there are grants available. And my understanding is that the West River went down this road, no pun intended. And they found some grants that were available that may not currently be available anymore, I believe. However, we have some time here, and I think it might be a good idea to explore the option, see if there's something available to us where we could get a strong grant and even possibly a bus at a much less cost that would be available to us. And hopefully maybe the technology will increase in that during that time. Maybe we'll be able to put something, so at least have something available when that time comes in 2 years. So I was willing to look into that for the committee and for the board to see what grants are available and what the actual cost and application would be, if it would certainly be worthwhile for us, even useful, if it would, if the charge and the distance of the bus is proper, it would work. So at least we'd have some time. And I know these grants don't happen overnight. They take 18 months to 2 years just to get them in place. So that was kind of the direction I was seeing if we could move during that time before the next bus becomes inactive.
So what I'm gonna suggest is, if there are one or two other people that would be interested in just working with Dwight on this, doing some research, little subcommittee of its committee, sort of, just to help bring some information, because I'm sure there are lots of grants. And Greg, I think you know almost everybody on this planet, it seems. So maybe you have some information. I know just very briefly, for those who don't know, the West River grant that they had been actually offered, it was brought to them, wasn't something they went out looking for, would have covered the full cost of their buses as well as the infrastructure. Greg, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they ended up not going down that road.
There were so many things that never made it to meeting, realities, conversations that never took place. They were going to get it. They were working through a company. They were going to get them free based on the fact that they had done a quick research of and because of the whatever the equity level of whatever of our students, were considered an area of poverty. So in that way, there was a certain grant they could get into, but they never talked to Todd. They never figured out what it would actually take to charge these buses. The company they were working with was not interested in helping unless we were at 10 to 12 buses with their side of things as far as that. Yeah. So they were saying, oh, well, we're going to apply for 7 and maybe get 1. It's like, yeah, but you're trying to apply for 7. And so like, there was so much there that I don't know that there's as much information that would be as helpful as you would like it to be to gain from that. I mean, when I met with them last year, I said to them at the end of it, like, listen, you need to talk to Todd. You need to find out what kind of power is needed to charge these things. And is that there? Do they need to be kept indoors? Are you talking about having to build a garage? Are you talking about having to add 3-phase power? I mean, he's out on a farm. Like, you've got to know these things. And they never did any of that. And so not obviously this is different because it's this board and it's the Dover school that's right there. So I mean, it's a little easier there, but there's I guess I'm just saying I don't know how much help you're going to get from what was done there, because I don't believe your district is going to financially qualify the way theirs did as a low income district, and knowing that we're buying a bus that has to have a higher horsepower engine and a higher torque level due to the mountains and the terrain, I would be concerned about the bus's ability to do what Dave needs it to do.
Okay, so I don't, at least from my perspective, I understood that we wouldn't be eligible for what West River was going for, and clearly they ran out of time and had communication difficulties. But I think it probably is worth just looking to see what federal grants might be available, or even private grants might be available that we would be eligible for. So is there anybody else that can work with Dwight on this, just to bring some information, not go down the road of a proposal or anything like that, just gather some information?
Dwight, I would happily do that because I know it's going to come up for me more, right? This isn't going to just go away here. People are going to have a desire to go that route. So, and there's $5 billion or whatever, of federal funds that have been set aside for electric buses. And that grant is going to be there for some time, I think. And so, it does make sense to have us have a working knowledge of it from my perspective anyways, that when the time comes, we know what's out there and what's really truly tangible, available for even West River in the future or Marlboro in the future and River Valley. So I'm willing to do some of that with you, Dwight. So.
No, thank you, Greg. And obviously you have a lot more information than I do, and whether or not that's helpful, at least the experience you've been through will be helpful. And I think we do have the luxury of some time here, possibly 2 to 3 years. So if we can get whatever information we can gather, and if we hit roadblocks or if we hit dead ends, more puns there. But we'll take it as we come, and if it's not viable, it's not viable. So, but at least we tried, right?
For sure.
Dave, can I put you on a spot? Is this something you'd be willing to work with Greg and Dwight on, since you handle, what's that?
What, for electric buses?
Yeah, just to look to see what possibilities may be down.
I'd rather not. I don't think the possibilities are good for this area. I really don't. That's my feeling on the thing. So there's a lot of things out there, even from the fire perspective, fire department perspective. I don't think it'll be a good option for the hills here. Like I said, the charging and stuff, and you know, the range that you have on them. I just don't think it's a good fit for the mountains. That's my thing.
Well, that actually was sort of why I was asking you whether you participate, because you have those perspectives. But I understand if you don't want to go down that route. All right, so Dwight and Greg, why don't you gather some information and bring it back to us?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. We don't have a next meeting scheduled. I don't know if we need one at this point, so we'll schedule as needed. Anybody have any thoughts on future agenda items besides the EV and the possible survey / additional bus routes? Any other topics that anyone would like our committee to take up?
Did Todd bring up some of his struggles with the Career Center route?
He did not.
He did not. Okay. It's been tight because Wednesdays with the high school doing their PBL thing, and it creates a late run for them. That has been difficult for him to man, because he usually takes one of his buses and, you know, and heads down there, and then he just recently lost another driver. And so I wasn't sure if the conversation you were having was to try to add, it sounds like maybe someone up to Bennington Rutland, or if you were dealing with trying to do in-house yourselves, getting kids down to Brattleboro.
No, he did not bring up the Brattleboro issue at all.
Okay. All right.
But if you want to communicate with him, he definitely should bring that up with us if that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, we had just talked about, like, I had just said, you know, maybe if you get tight on drivers, maybe we have to ask Dave, like, hey, Dave, on Wednesdays, can you just take them all the way to town rather than, you know, just bringing them to Newbrook or type of thing. I know that's
Dave,
not ideal for
Dave,
you,
we're just putting you on the spot constantly today.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dave. No, we do that. We help on the half days and stuff like that, or you know, when he can't make the run, we'll go down there and pick him up, pick him up. So we already do offer that to them. So just to help them out of a bind. Any half days, or if they have an early dismissal in Brattleboro too, we can do it that day also. And we have just enough to get back here and do our runs.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I knew that, you know, there was pretty common communication between you guys and whatnot and stuff. So I just, you know, I had told him, I said, you know, it'll probably be our last resort thing, but it could be something that if you get really tight, we might have to do. He lost a driver last year to a DOT issue, and he just lost one 2 or 3 days ago to another someone that now has to do a sleep study and whatever. And I'm like, oh, no way, man. You know, and so, and you know, as you all know, right, I mean, drivers aren't just hanging out looking for work these days. I mean, there's no shortage of work for CDL people with CDLs. So
just ask him to notify either me or Matt and Tammy if there's a concern that we need to address that can't be handled. Shannon, didn't you need to leave?
I got
like
out
15 minutes ago.
the rain.
Okay. Is there anything else before we adjourn? Allison, you sort of looked like you were starting to put your hand up.
No, I just want to know when you would like this information by, you know, you said there's no next meeting scheduled. So can I just collect this information and send it to you and do it what you will?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, you know, maybe not leave it till 2024, but.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Motion.
All right, everyone. Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
okay.
Bye, everyone.
See
Take
ya.
care. Thank you
Bye,
all so
everyone.
much.
Thanks, Mark.
Stay dry.
Bye.